Alright, just admit it. You're suboptimal. Your gameplay is suboptimal. Your life is suboptimal. Heck, even your wife says you're suboptimal. But don't worry about it. I'm suboptimal too. And we're going to teach you how to make the best out of your suboptimal strategy choices. Start off by believing in yourself and believing in your strategy. It may be suboptimal, but back up your reasoning by means of proof of concept. Look up builds similar to the build that you want to pull off online. In addition, consider whether the build would work on you. 8 Pop Scouts is a great example of this. It shouldn't work. However, it does work. Just imagine it's minute 7, minute 8, minute 9, and scouts are running into your economy, killing villagers left and right. And then you get a tower dropped on your face. Flip the table, I'm out. Turns out they only had 7 Villigares. After believing in yourself, the second thing that you need to do to make your suboptimal strat work is build order. The faster you can hit, the faster you can achieve your goals. Now, don't overcomplicate things. Arkham's razor it. Simple is often better. Yeah, you can shave off 5 seconds here by doing this or doing that, but if you're not comfortable doing more complicated builds, why make yourself fall into mistakes? Personally, I don't like the TC trick on boars. Does it cost me a couple resources here there? Sure. But I like knowing that my boars are always going to be alive. Could I optimize this while I'm in strat more by means of collecting wood from the berries? Sure, but I'm not really comfortable doing a 20 pop up plus loom with berry food rather than hunt food, so I keep it simple. I do what I know. Oh, I hadn't mentioned that I'm trying to show you by means of the most suboptimal strats that any strategy can work. If you believe, if you have a clean build order, and if, third power tip, you have a clear plan, a ultimate goal in mind, both simple and complex. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This game was played at 1600 ELO. The build order is relatively simple. We have 7 on food, 3 onto wood, food. Pick up loom when we have 20 population. Then we go 3 on stone and 5 forwards to wall. At this point, it is most important that we get to castle A's. Our build order does break down here because there's simply too many variables to keep track of. You need to know when you need to stick to the build order and when you need to adapt based on the situation that you find yourself in. This is where a simple and complex understanding of your build and goals can come in handy. On a very simple level, we want to wall in our opponent. We want to have not more resources, but better resources. And we want to contain our opponent at all costs. This is our simple goal. However, we can break this down in a more complex manner. For example, containing our opponent is, yes, walling them in, but how many villagers are we going to use to wall them in, tying back into build order? Are we going to defend our walls by means of towers or by means of army? When are we going to start the walling? Are we going to go for Dark Age and do, for example, houses in front so that we deter the opponent from moving out? If so, do we send 1 villager? If we send more, we might seriously hurt our economy. In addition, this approach will give our opponent vision of what is happening, and it's not guaranteed that he won't just delete a wall segment and escape. Even though this thinking may not be the final solution to walling our opponent in, it gives us a first step to try and experiment. I want to go back real quick because I love getting ahead of myself and talk about army. In Dark Age, we don't really need any army for this particular strategy, nor do we in Feudal. We really need to focus on keeping our walls up. And things that destroy our walls are rams as well as mangonels. Towers can also be tricky if the opponent constructs them, as they could stop our villagers from walling behind, as could archers. So what units should we go for in castle is a pretty big deal. Based on these options, we'll probably opt for mangonels to stop enemy siege and monks to convert enemy siege or convert enemy units, allowing us to re-wall. But in Imp, it's a completely different game. Range is everything. We might still have monks with block printing to convert, but we probably no longer need mangonels. Rather go for bombard cannons or trebs to snipe down enemy siege. Anyway, enough about army and back to walling my opponent in. So maybe house walls isn't my preferred or most optimal way to go about this strat. Why wouldn't we just construct the walls right next to the opponent's walls and gate? Well, do you see this yellow area over here? That's the line of vision my opponent has. Walls have about 2 vision, whereas a gate has slightly larger vision of about 3 or 4. So much better option to not show my opponent what's going on until it's too late would actually be to construct the walls slightly further out. But Poop Lord, what about the enemy scout? Yes, that is a problem. If we see them near our base, we want to prioritize trying to fight their scout and killing it so that we can get these walls off without our opponent realizing. And sometimes you're going to be lucky with that, and sometimes you're not. But thinking about it at the very least, if you've already been spotted, placing them closer might be the better option because we can see that it requires less total amount of walls by means of this diagram. Okay, so we're done. We're covered army. We've covered walling him in. What's next? Well, we're not done. Think about the second wall in. Where is the second layer of wall going to go? Are you going to wall it right behind the first layer of wall, creating a double layerito? Is there a better option? Maybe so. If we create a space between the two walls in Imperial Age, when the battering rams come out, it won't damage the walls behind. There are other hidden benefits to this as well. We can put gates as well as mangonels and monks inside of this wall sandwich to stop our opponent from putting pressure on our walls, keeping them alive. But wait, there's an even better way to go about it. Rather than just creating a wall behind, we should create intermittent walls, allowing our army to move back and forth between these pockets or airlocks, as I like to call them. Why is this important? Well, imagine our enemy is charging through a section and manages to break through a wall. Now there's only one layer of wall stopping him from getting out. It's a much smaller area to re-wall. We only need to re-wall this small section down here rather than the entirety of the wall. Plus, we have the added benefit that mangoes and monks that are in the adjacent pockets can convert or throw stones at them. Okay, so we're finally done, right? Can you just show us the gameplay footage? Don't worry, It's coming, but there's still more to think about. And if you've watched this far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really pushes me to make really bad PowerPoints to explain stupid concepts in Age of Empires to you. What more is there to think about with walling? We've covered all of our bases. You just keep adding additional walls behind with air pockets. We get it. Well, Imperial Age brings another challenge. They could opt to chop through woods, and you actually need to be careful that if there are wood segments within your wall, the opponent doesn't cut through it. So we need to think about this as well. We could preemptively chop with our own onagers or trebuchets that might take a long period of time, and then resources as well, rewall behind, stopping them from ever escaping. Make sure to do this on both sides. I'm just outlining it on one side. But there's another option. We could wait for them to chop through and then chop behind them, rewalling them out, which is absolutely hilarious. You just need to make sure that you're able to kill the army that passes through. There's another option though. We don't have to get onager at all. We could simply allow our opponent to cut around our walls while we construct additional walls everywhere where they may come out, eventually connecting down below to our original base. The only thing that they're going to be seeing for a very long period of time is going to be woods. Actually, you can make it even worse. You can create the wall hell by doing this. Hopefully, at this point in the game, you have mined all gold and stone from this area. So when they finally do break through, they'll be in a desolated area with no additional resources to collect. This is where many will flip the table, and you know you have found success. Talking about success, I didn't talk about one thing here. Towers. Why haven't I talked about towers as a defensive option? Well, towers cost stone. And if you remember, one of our other goals is to have better resources than my opponent. Better resources meaning stone and gold. Towers cost stone, plus they are static. They cannot move around. Now, if you are in post-Imperial Age and you want to pick up bombard towers, that might be a worthwhile investment. But in the early stages, having a mobile army that is able to stop your enemy from escaping is much more valuable than a ton of static defenses that can't move to the area where they are most needed. In addition, we need to consider what army our opponent is making. Most likely, they are going to go for siege, rams, onagers, mangoes, cannons, trebs, and towers don't really do well against any of those. They're going to have a significantly larger army than we do, so we need to stop them with a much smaller army. How do we do that? Well, with mangoes, monks, and bombard cannons. There's always more to think about, but I think we're starting to beat a dead horse, and you get the general idea of what I mean by a simple goal and a complex goal. Let's just finish it up with the better resources. The better resources that we're going for is gold and stone. Our opponent may have 4, 5, 6 TCs. They have tons of food. They have tons of wood, but they don't have unlimited gold and stone. If they do want to get additional gold, they'll have to buy it from the market, and then worse, buy stone in order to get stone after they've mined all of their initials. So how are we going to up our better resources? Well, we're going to collect all of them off of the map. That helps for both gold and stone. In addition, we can make Victoria if we are Portuguese, and we can collect all 5 relics now that we have full map control. A final tip of what may or might not be useful for you is to consider your intermittent goals, especially with a strategy this complex. First, we're going to start by walling them in. Then we're going to try and get to castle as soon as possible, which will allow us to make mangoes and monks. Those monks should be picking up relics, as you can see in this gameplay footage, and getting redemption so that we can convert the enemy siege once they go for it. I like to go for a flowchart to better visualize this within my own mind, but I felt like you guys had enough PowerPoint slides to deal with, so I opted to just show some gameplay footage instead. But if you're hungry for more flowcharts, please let me know in the comment section below. Farming engagement, farming engagement. We're also farming and engage. Don't forget to pick up fortified wall, as well as prepping for Imperial Age. You do this by means of constructing additional siege workshops to make bombards right after you research chemistry, re-walling behind any wood sections that the opponent has in your wall. And now all you have to do is make sure that you hold. Don't allow your opponent to chop through in any way, shape, or form. Walling those wood lines is going to be essential. It doesn't matter if they get additional space. What matters is that they don't get additional resources. And that's about all she wrote. Let's just enjoy the gameplay from here. I will make sure that I add the full game at the end of this video because it was an emotional roller coaster. Hopefully, you have realized that by means of believing in yourself, figuring out a good build order with simple and complex goals, potentially adding in intermittent goals, you're able to make your suboptimal strategies come to life. And remember, none of us are really optimal. We're playing Age of Empires for fun. And with that, don't let your memes just be dreams. And keep on walking. Poop Lord, out.